Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and today we're going to look a little bit about the type of chemical hazards that we face every day, and some people face them more than others. As we just saw in West Africa, the problem can be severe, and we're really not in touch with what's happening. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these hazards, right? So this slide here is probably the most important slide of the entire presentation. This is a short one. Basically, mutagens cause mutations in DNA. Teratogens are those that cause birth defects to a fetus or embryo, and carcinogens are those that are forms of cancer that cause cancer from chemicals or radiation, right? So mutagens, easy to remember. Carcinogens, probably easy to remember based on the name. Teratogens, just got to remember that's birth defects. So an example of a teratogen would be something like fetal alcohol syndrome, right? That's a chemical that causes birth defects. We think about mutagens. Those things are cause some kind of mutation in the embryo or the organism as it is going through its life cycle. And carcinogens include things like PCBs, smoking, anything that can cause cancer, right? Okay, so a chemical is hazardous if it's flammable, explosive, irritant, interferes with our oxygen uptake, or causes an allergic reaction. And some of the effects are mostly on the endocrine system. The endocrine system is responsible for all hormone signals in the body. And these chemicals can get into our body and they can make our body think that something's happening when it really isn't. So long-term exposure, in addition to the endocrine system, will affect our immune system and our nervous system, right? Our immune system, which helps protect us against disease transmission, our nervous system, which is our signal center for the body, and as I said at the beginning, most importantly, probably our endocrine system is affected more by these chemicals than anything else, because that's the signal system throughout our body. Okay, so how do these chemicals move through the environment? Well, a lot of times they're mobile. They are able to move from one place to another. So liquids and gases are going to be the most suspect. And then beyond that, they usually are fat soluble. So fat soluble compound, remember, can be readily absorbed by body tissue. So fat soluble compound is going to move throughout a food chain and throughout an ecosystem. And finally, they're usually persistent. So when I think of something like PCBs or paradichlorobenzene, you can hear the chloro in there. You can hear the benzene in there. It's fat soluble. Those are chemicals that that are going to be problematic, right? PCB stands for polychlorinated biphenyl. The chlorine tells you it is persistent, stays in the environment a long time, and the biphenyl part tells you that it is fat soluble. Okay, so here's the persistent organic pollutants, the dirty dozen of the Stockholm Convention. And you can see most of them are insecticides, and there's our PCB right there, third one up from the bottom, right? These are all ones that you should be familiar with, and you can spend a little time on the slide after we're done talking. So PCBs are everywhere. Mainly PCBs are the result of the manufacture of electrical transformers. And I'll be showing you a video on how they use those electrical transformers. They were great because they're a liquid insulator. So you can have bare wire, immerse it in liquid if you have like coils of bare wire, and that liquid will not transmit an electrical charge. They break down slowly. They're fat soluble, as we said before. So where are some other ones, right? Other guys are found in most common locations in your home. As you can see here, from floor wax and food containers to water bottles that contain bisphenol A. Right here's the water bottle down here on the bottom. And here's food containers, right? These are things that should not be microwaved because the chemicals can get out of those containers and into the food that you eat. Right? We can see here also carpet contains glues and substances that are known to cause cancer in many cases. Formaldehyde, another big one, indoor air pollutant found in furniture stuffing. All right. So one of the most common ones and deadliest ones actually is mercury. Mercury is being found in so many places today. In fact, we know that light bulbs today, probably compact fluorescent light bulbs, are one of the number one sources of mercury, fluorescent light bulbs. And in our own classroom, those are mercury light bulbs overhead. The school is slowly changing them out to LED light bulbs. But when those light bulbs burn out, they have to be handled by a recycler. The gas that's inside of them will be absorbed into body tissue. And as we said before when we studied aquatic ecology, almost every bit of tuna today has a trace amount of mercury in it. So much so that women that are pregnant or expecting to become pregnant should limit their input of mercury or their intake of mercury. So mercury gets into aquatic environments mainly from human sources, from incineration of wastes, and also coal has mercury in it. It's believed that mercury was probably part of Earth's primitive atmosphere. And so when we burn coal, which is really buried photosynthesis from millions of years ago, we're returning that coal into the atmosphere. That, of course, precipitates down and gets into aquatic ecosystems, and then people eat seafood, and it gets into the human supply, right? So you can go through some of the sources of mercury. One of the great ones that I'm happy to say is that we phased out mercury in our TVs, because mainly our old cathode ray tube, the big computer monitors, TV monitors, those were mercury liquid inside of those, but we phased a lot of those out. And also batteries, right? Batteries used to contain mercury. Now, no alkaline batteries, like your AA's, AAA's, 9 volts, contain mercury or lithium unless they're rechargeable, right? Which is why rechargeable batteries should not be thrown into the garbage. All right, so what's this effect on the endocrine system? Well, basically over here on the left-hand side, this is the normal hormone process, right? So a hormone has a particular shape, much like a key, and the cell has a shape to receive that key, like a keyhole, right? And when a key goes into a particular keyhole or receptor site, well, then there is a response. You put a key in the keyhole of the door, the key will turn the knob and unlock the door. And the same case is true with a hormone, right? So sometimes we can think of like the adrenaline response, right? So there's the cell, it's waiting. You see something that scares you. You get the adrenaline released into your body by the endocrine system, the adrenaline glands. And then what happens is your cells have that spot for adrenaline, that receptor site, and they react a certain way. Well, in this middle one right here, a lot of our chemicals have effects on our sex characteristics and our sex cells, right? And so a hormone mimic is going to be something that moves in to a receptor site, and what happens is it sends a false signal. So an estrogen mimic is a chemical that will provoke a response that makes the organism more female-like, okay? So in the case of anabolic steroids, what happens is that anabolic steroids, you hear, create an estrogen-like response in men. Well, it's not that anabolic steroids are an estrogen-like chemical. Anabolic steroids are over here. They're an anti-androgen chemical. What they do is they actually get onto the receptor site for testosterone, and they block the receptor site so that in a man's body, the only receptors that are available are estrogen receptors. And so that's why in a male that takes an overuse of anabolic steroids, they get female characteristics. And so we refer to some of these guys as gender benders for the fact that they, over time, will cause those types of changes, right? One such case is a 20-year case in your book. It's referred to in your book on the Florida alligator. And basically, phthalates spelled with a PHTHALATES. Those are substances that have a number 3 recycle symbol on the container. Okay, it's a recyclable plastic. What scientists found is that those chemicals are actually able to cause changes in reptiles such that they become infertile. What a phthalate is it's the softener used in plastic. So the softer the plastic, the more phthalate that's in it. For example, your computer keyboard is very hard, and so that plastic does not have much in the way of phthalates in it. On the flip side of it, a water bottle is very soft. You can squeeze it, crunch it. That will have more of the plastic softener phthalate in it. And when reptiles ingest those things out in the environment, we have found that it has made them infertile. Okay, so here we have it just summarized one more time. So basically, bisphenol A is one of those other estrogen mimics commonly found in many products, mainly plastics. Once again, you're going to see food packaged nowadays that say that it's BPA free, which means that it's not packaged in plastic that contains BPA. It has not been banned, but awareness is definitely out there that it exists. So you should always be careful how you handle your food, especially when it comes to using microwavable foods. Okay, so this ends this portion of the slideshow, and we'll go ahead and click next to answer some of the questions.